Hello and welcome to the Joyful Rebels podcast. We've got Claire and Donna Thomas here, your mother-daughter duo, plus today a very special guest. On today's episode, we're honored to host Beth Feraco. You may have seen her videos on Instagram and TikTok going viral for her no-nonsense advice and helping people, especially women, to feel more empowered in their wellness choices. Beth is a certified fitness, nutrition, and mindset coach, a six-figure business owner, a fellow podcast host, heyo, a
Mhm.
sober warrior, and definitely what we consider to be a joyful rebel. She's passionate about helping as many people as possible to grow, achieve their goals, and live their best lives. Beth isn't afraid to drop an F-bomb, so if you're listening and you've got sensitive ears, you just know that you're aware. And
Mhm.
we are overall just so excited to chat with you, Beth, and to get your take on a few different topics of interest. So
Yeah.
welcome to the Joyful
Thanks for
Rebels
having
podcast.
me. Thank you.
Oh, we were so lucky. And if you don't follow Beth currently, I just want you to know what really strikes me about you, Beth, just in a nutshell, is that, we've all got these friends. And if you're one of my current friends, this doesn't apply to you. But if you have friends and you have these conversations, and sometimes you want to vent, and sometimes you're looking for problem solving ways, or, you're strategizing. And sometimes we can go around this mulberry bush a million different times. And then finally, it's like, and if nobody takes action on it, then you get the conversation where you lean in, you're like, okay, this is what is happening here. And I feel, Beth, that's the heart space where you're at, where you're just cutting through, you're leaning in, and you're having this conversation that's really intimate and it's really heartfelt. Because what I'm finding in my life is that it's easier not to have that conversation. You could be like,
Right.
okay, you're not taking any advice or even just suggestion. You're not doing any action. You're thinking it over and over again, which has benefit about this much, but then you got to do something. And when people don't do anything, then you're really like, we're going to have one more conversation, and then, bless and release, man, go do your thing.
Mhm.
So I appreciate that urgency, but it's also got a heart space where it's not mean spirited. And I
Yeah.
think that's a fine line that is brilliant. You walk it brilliantly, and it's very powerful because it grabbed my attention immediately, especially the heart space. So thanks for showing up in the space that way.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it's you. You weren't like, I'm going to calculate exactly how to get under people's skin. So I get it that is who you are. And you guys will hear that as we talk. So, if it's cool, let's just get right into it. And
Mhm.
we got to acknowledge, like, we're all in the health and fitness, mental health, self-care. All of this, I think, is a big, lovely quagmire. There's so much garbage. It's just, there's so many things that are being suggested. And
Yeah.
like, how do you even find, for all the fads and the trends, like, how do you sift through and find what you find to be like, this I know is true? Not like I kind of know it, but I know it, before you share it. Do you have any ways that you're like, this is how I discover what I'm going to talk about and how I share? Any tips you can, or insight?
Are you speaking from like all the kind of like bullshit I see out there?
Yeah.
Well, I think what people need to understand is that nutrition is really simple in the scheme of things, right? But a lot of people overcomplicate the living shit out of it because either A, they're trying to sell you something, which most of the time is the case, right? Supplements, what have you, or they're trying to instill the fear on you because fear also sells. But what it comes down to, it like nutrition and fat loss, and it's really mastering the boring basic things. But those are hard to do. Right. So people are always looking for those quicker ways when really, in all actuality, it really comes down to really doing those boring basic things consistently over and over and over again to reach those goals. But no one wants to really take the time to do that because people are impatient. So when try to explain to someone, this takes time, they're like, no, but there must be another way. But no, there's not. So people are consistently spinning their wheels years after years after years, doing things that they think are quick, but in all actuality, it ends up taking longer.
Yeah. I think the word that comes into my mind is sustainability, and the consistency. And those things are, they are boring. I mean, I don't have another way to describe that except
Yeah.
that it means that you have to keep showing up. You have
Hmm.
to keep showing up even when you don't want to.
Yeah.
And I know I struggle with that, where it's not about motivation, like, at all. Like, I've been in
Yeah.
the fitness, profession for 30 years,
Hmm.
and I rarely want to work out.
Yeah.
Rarely. Like, one day out of the week. The rest of the time, I'm like, time to make the donuts. Only it's
Yeah.
time to go do something else. So I can understand it on that level, but there just is such an onslaught. Um, like, was there a period of time in your life where you're like, now I'm kicking it into gear, I'm going to do it. Now I have a story to say, this is what consistency looks like.
Yeah, I think when I quit drinking and I kind of got into the fitness space, I kind of learned that way. That really it comes down to doing those boring basic things and learning from people that knew more than me, and really trusting more in the science, rather than the people that are trying to sell you a quick fad or looking for those shiny objects consistently. And then when I started doing the work, the boring basic shit consistently, and seeing that that actually does work, that's motivation. So it's like action, results, and then motivation, right? So when you see those results, that's more motivation than you're ever going to get. Because like you said, motivation is fleeting. It rarely happens. I'm really motivated either, you know? So yeah, just knowing if you stick through that hard shit, get past that and able to see those results, that's going to keep you going. And now then you build those habits. So now I have these habits. And now I know what happens when I stop doing these habits.
Oh, okay. So just so I have it correctly, because I don't know if I ever thought of it in this way. Maybe like sometimes I feel like I'm unconsciously competent. Like I kind of know, but I don't know where it came from, which is why we like research too. Like give me the peer reviewed stuff so I have an idea like what's really true. And then at least I have a foundation. I think a lot of us think that motivation is the front runner, when what I'm hearing you say, that's the back end of the engine. The motivation comes after just doing the thing.
Yeah.
And then you fill your tank up and then you've got more to keep going. Did I get that right?
Yeah. So it's like, you got to take that action. You got to step that one action, whatever you're trying to, get towards, like whatever goal, you just have to take that first step. It's always action before motivation. But some people use motivation to take that action step. But then what happens is the motivation goes, and then they're like, well, I don't want to do it anymore. But that's when you have to keep going. So you keep having to take that action. Then the results will come. And then you're like, oh, okay, you'll get more motivated. Then you're going to understand it's a consistent process of action, results, motivation.
I love how you talk about it being that consistency, and even the word boring there, because I really do think, that's not exactly going to sell on social media,
Right.
but that is the magic pill. We've said that before on posts, like your magic pill is to keep doing it when you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And I know you share a lot of this information on your podcast. So you've got your podcast, Cut the Crap with Beth and Matt. I'm curious, what motivated you to say, okay, sharing this information, I've got this business, you're this coach. What was the motivation to, well, I think we should record these conversations? Like what made you decide to get into the podcast?
So I met Matt, my co-host podcast, on TikTok. So we were getting in 2020 tagged in the same videos. We have kind of the same followers, and they were like, you guys, you're kind of the same, you do the same content. You should do some collaborate together. So we started doing kind of like faraway videos together. And then I know I wanted to start my own podcast, and I think he actually had his own. And we're like, let's just start a podcast together and see how it goes. It just kind of went like that, kind of like you guys, just let's do it for fun. And now it was at one point, like we were number 2 under Mind Pump, which was crazy. That was like for a full month. I'm like, oh my God, are we really like back neck to neck with Mind Pump? Like that's crazy. But we have been consistently at the top 10 recently, which is that's huge on Apple. So now we just, we want to reach people who want to cut the bullshit, cut the crap is what it's, why it's called that. And really just help people, steer away from all the fear mongering and get people on there that are, evidence-based, that can spread the good word with us.
Yeah. And you had talked about how, it's, motivation's going to come after you're consistent. Do you find there's other pieces of advice that you're sharing over and over because they are so impactful or just so simple that we hear them, but we don't know it or do it?
Yeah, I think we're consistently talking about the scale. That is, I feel like I am just talk about that till I'm blue in the face, because so many people will base everything, all of their results are just based on that number. But it's like no one looks at the other things that are going on, right? Like you're getting better sleep, your clothes are fitting better. But no, that scale, if it does not move, that means you are just totally screwed, which is not the case. Like that is the worst piece of data as a coach that we can look at. Honestly, it's the last one I look at. I look at photos, measurements, things like that. The scale, progress over perfection. People, if they're not perfect, which I see so much, then they just they quit if they can't do everything 100%. That's a big one. I'm trying to think of others. There's a ton. I feel like I
Yeah.
talk about a lot. And then, the fear mongering around different foods, like food is neither good or bad. And a lot of people like to put labels on things, and put the fear towards other people of, different foods. Food is poison. It's like, no, alcohol is poison, but who's talking about that? That's
Yeah.
actually like an actual poison,
Yeah.
but seed oils, I mean, come on, you guys, like that is not poison. No one's, committing manslaughter, drinking their coffee mate with a little bit of oil in it. That's ridiculous. But people will
Yes.
just, go to the bitter end and they will get mean about it. Like it's my problem. No, you're the fucking problem, not me. Like
Yeah.
you're the whack job that believes this crazy shit, and you're literally identifying yourself by either what diet you're doing or, what someone else is doing, and, basing all your thoughts about that person because they eat certain foods, which is crazy to me.
What I'm hearing, there's so much in that, that little chunk you just did, but the distorted thoughts. And it keeps coming up in my own life in different realms where I can say about perfectionism, I can understand that that's a thing. But what I'm finding so interesting in the curiosity lens that I try to look through is like, oh, look, it's showing up over here too. Oh, look, it's over here too. It's not just when I do public speaking that it shows up. It's everywhere. Just how is it dressed up in this scenario? So the
Mhm.
all or nothing, the black and white, the like Western culture. I don't know if you agree with this, but we like to be told what to do. Like,
Mhm.
like that, just tell me what to do and I'll just do it. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, it will require we need your attention first, then we'll create a little bit of awareness, and then you're going to make some choices.
Mhm.
And food, how about it? It's like all woven into culture and celebrations and all the emotional stuff. So I respect it for or nutrition in general. I respect it for the layers that it has,
Mhm.
but also that it's we're going to have to make peace with it because we do it. It's not like you can cut it out forever and be like, I'm just not going to eat. It's not going
Right.
to happen. Like, how do we make this peace with it? And some of it is the I love the don't label the things. And I think that's a great jump off point. And there's probably 10 different ways to jump off, but I really like when you hone in on that. Like you guys, like
Mhm.
just that's crazy. Just because a bunch of people might think something doesn't make it truth. Just
Right.
means that it's on somebody's lips right now.
Yeah.
And the frustration, and I'll even go so far as to say, I don't know if it's real or enhanced, but like, I sense your frustration when you're like, are we talking about this again? In a way that it grabs your attention, because
Mhm.
it's like some people are just jumping on the train or they're like, I never heard that before. Like, well, you weren't paying attention. But now that
Mhm.
you're paying attention, you're going to hear it over and over and over
Yeah.
again. And it really is a lot. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a lot. It can be a lot. But what I'm hearing you say is that it's not really a lot. Take each situation as it comes,
Yeah.
experiment, like eat some food that you like.
That's the thing. And people are not eating food that they love because they think, either something is bad or, so they're like force feeding themselves protein shakes and bars all day. I mean, that's not really sustainable because they're afraid to, whatever, eat something else. But I don't even know where I'm going with this, but
It's
it's,
it, but it has gone off the rails in so many different
yeah.
ways. And I'll tie it back up into the fear, whether it's fear of a distorted thought of what's currently being talked about on outlets that we get a lot of exposure to. So I feel like it's kind of a war. It's really, just I
Mhm.
want the armor of knowledge to go like, is that true? Or at least to question it. So Claire, that even reminds me of just like when we're looking at research, I want to say, is this something that's being, like, is this somebody's opinion or has it
Mhm.
been substantiated? And then where I want to go with this is that I think there's a fair amount of experimentation with this.
Mhm.
I'm not sure if you agree with that, but I'm wondering if like there's things to be true, right, Beth? Like you're like, I strength train. Like that's really such a key, strength training as opposed to cardio.
Mhm.
I mean, there's more data in on that. Like we're going to really keep our muscular systems alive and replenished. And that's, I love that conversation, especially for women.
Mhm.
Um, and that not only are we focusing on that piece of it, but there's also going to be some emerging things. Okay. Like, so
Mhm.
I don't know if this is going to make any sense. I'm sure it will. Um, do you have a small percentage where for your own self-care and your own personal wellness that you experiment with things like going to Utah, like I want to go have this experience, or I
Mhm.
want to drink mushroom coffee, or do you ever like do that kind of stuff where you are playing around with anything that can enhance what you're currently doing?
Yeah, I think people need to figure out what's going to work for them. And then that will include experiencing different things. And that even with food, some people like certain things and some other people don't. Some foods affect other people differently than other people, but that doesn't mean it's bad. So I think people need to, like you said, they need to experience all different things to figure out what works for them. Like some people might really hate strength training, but they might be very they love Pilates, and that's something that they will do consistently, right? So I think it's important to find something that you love, experiment, and then something that you can do consistently, which always comes back to the consistency for sure. But yeah, you have to take action. Right, coming back to action and consistency always, right? We always come back
Yep.
to these same things. And find out what works for you, because what works for you may not work for somebody else. And that's what other people need to understand too. And when I can't stand when certain creators are like, you need to eat this. This is what works. No, that's what works for you, but it may not work for somebody else. So that's where people need to just take what you want and leave the rest. And maybe it will work for you. Try it out, but you don't know until you try.
So speaking about finding things you love and things that interest you and keep you engaged and keep you showing up, talking to you, Beth, what are some things that light you up in your life that really get you energized, either personally or professionally? Like, what is something that really fires you up?
I love hiking. I do. I love hiking. I love being in nature. I live in Maine, so I'm always in the woods. And helping people lights me up. It really does.
Mm. And how about that being of service
Mm-hmm.
is, I mean, that's the what I really appreciate about you, because I hear that a lot too when people are like, I really want to be of service. But it doesn't take the place, and you didn't say it at all like this, doesn't take the place of actually doing it yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, and that can be like this weird, like, I just want to help other people because then I'm externally, focused. That's not where you're at. Like, it's like you do it and then you share what that is. And
Yeah.
again, I feel that's the real girlfriend talk where you're like, come here, we're
Yeah.
going to talk about this thing right now.
Right.
And like, so for elevating the conversation of like, I can't, the things that I can't bear, like when Claire, you talk about lighten up, the things that really just grind me down are the competition, the
Mm.
comparison, like all that. Like, do you think we're ever going to be done with that? Like, are we done yet? Like,
Right. Probably not.
So you've got this, just straight talk. You've gone viral for it, but it is because you're really cutting through the crap, name of
Mm-hmm.
podcast. Was there like a moment in your life that you can pinpoint that really inspired you or solidified to you, like, this is how I'm going to show up in this space?
Probably Gary V, to be
Okay.
honest. Well, I was in Jordan Syatt's a mentorship with him, and this is how it got started on TikTok. Right before COVID happened, I was in person training in the gym. And I told my boss, who's actually now my business partner, I was like, I think I'm going to, start my own online business. I want to have something for myself because my dad passed away early, like 4 days before graduating high school, and she was left with nothing. Like, and my husband at the time was the same age as my dad when he passed away. And I'm like, I don't want to be left with nothing if something happens to him, and I want to be able to support myself and our kids. So I joined Jordan Syatt's mentorship, and one of the challenges, he had monthly challenges, was to post every day on TikTok. And so this was in 2020 during the pandemic. So I'm like, all right, what other choice do I have? I'm like, fucking TikTok, it's like, so it just went from like Musically to TikTok. So everyone's dancing, and I'm like, this is just, this is like for my 12-year-old stepdaughter right now. I'm like, fine, I'll do it. And so you're finding your voice, right? In the beginning, it's awkward. And I'm like, wasn't being myself. And I'm like, filtering myself. And then I watched a Gary V video. I don't know which one it was, but he was like, just press record and just be yourself. And I'm like, all right, fuck it. I'm going to do that. So I did. And I let the F bombs fly. And I just was like, here are the 4 fucking things that you shouldn't do when you're trying to lose fat or something. And I got my first like 10,000, whatever. That was huge for me then. And that's how it started. And so I'm like, okay, being yourself works. And I'm actually having fun with this because I wasn't really having fun with it before, because like I said, trying not to be someone you're not is not fun. I'm like, people can swear. I'm allowed to be me. So that is what got it started, and I haven't stopped. And so I feel now more, I'm just still really just being myself. Now, I don't know, because I turned 50, I just don't have any fucks anymore.
Yeah.
So
That continues, so you know.
I
You just keep going.
I just say whatever I want to say. And I think what's important too is to talk to people as if they were your best friend, right? Because that's how people are going to relate to you. Having that conversation is as if I was in the same room as one of my girlfriends. Like, what would I tell her? How would I talk to her? And that's how I talk to my audience.
Although I don't think that's that easy to do. I think you pull it off because you're you put in the time, you put in the reps for that, but you also like have a very clear objective of how you want to show up. At least but how it comes out, not everybody translates digitally, but you do. And I think that's really cool. So you're not going to walk in and go, guess what I can do? I'm so awesome digitally, but it really does transfer. Right. It's awesome. And I think that's it's a huge thing that is but I'm hearing that it's not luck. There's you invested time, energy, effort, and resources into learning about it.
Yeah.
You just did the thing, which I love. I just feel like there's so many opportunities where I feel like I'm at the edge of the deep end and just jump in, you'll figure it out, and I feel rewarded with that. And if it didn't come off how I wanted to, I learned something.
Yeah.
Like that has been so valuable because I'd rather learn than be stuck. Like that's a thing. Like when you were like in a crisis, your dad passed away, like I'm not going to be stuck in any situation. I'm going to give myself choices. So I think that's a really powerful energy behind your engine too, is that there's just good juju behind it. So
yep, like everything I do comes from my heart. Like I'm not like you said, I'm not out there swearing to be negative or at people. It's just I'm being me. I want to help. I've been through a lot of shit in my life, so I don't cut through the bullshit with me. How I learned from other people that know more than me was people that actually swore and cut through the bullshit, like Jordan Syatt, Gary Vee. There are people that just, I can relate to, and a lot of people can't relate to me. They're like, why do you swear? It's like, well, I'm not for you then. That's okay. I wouldn't probably take advice from someone that didn't really swear or someone that acted like they worked for Disney. I just,
for me, it's people. If they don't like dogs, I'm like, you're not my people. You're not my people. Can I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
I think I should have probably cleared this already, but you're inspiring me as you say that. The way you are, and you seem like you're a big character. Like it's a lot of really great energy. Have you ever been told like to kind of tone it down or be something different or other? Have you ever received that message?
No, actually, no, I have not. I've been told a lot not to swear. Like, why do you swear? That's a huge thing for people. But I have never been told like that I'm too much. Not that I can recall anyway. I'm sure it's happened, but
well, and I'm not saying that you are too much at all. What I'm wondering is that there's what I am finding, and I'm gathering information that sometimes if earlier we've been told something is just our superpower, and it's just I'm just going to manage it. And here you're managing whatever it is into this lane that is huge, that's getting this really important message that's multi-pronged out to people in a way that they can hear. So, I'm glad that nobody ever tried to, as you're raising kids, you want to give them a lane, but you don't want to squash their spirit. You're like, just keep going. But then it is a superpower and it's awesome. It's not something that it's just, I love getting older to manage it better and have that be a partner instead of this liability.
Yeah.
So, and I'm glad, because if somebody were to tell you that I would have been sorry for them. Sorry for you for saying that.
I've always been told I was strong-willed.
Okay.
That I had I don't even know, like a fiery personality, kind of thing. More of a leader than a follower, I guess you should say. If I quit a job, there would be like I had a job I was at for 5 years. I quit, and then like 2 or 3 people quit right after me.
Done.
Kind of like that kind of thing. I've had women stalkers. Like I have, for some reason, women, and this you'll notice like all my comments that are negative are coming from women. It's crazy.
Why do you think that is?
I think because a lot of women have not found their voice, and they see a strong woman with a voice, and that's intimidating to them. That's my guess. I'm just, speculating, but
I would guess that too.
I do what I want, say what I want. A lot of women don't do that. They want to do that, or they are with husbands that, don't let them do things. I was actually just talking about this on my stories today. People were like, are you okay with your marriage? And, because I went to Utah with Matt and my son, I'm like, you guys, are you okay? Like, are you in an okay marriage? Like, we're allowed to do things by ourselves. And this carries on into coaching as well. I see it a lot. Women are always worried about, well, what's my husband going to think? What am I going to feed my husband? It's like, who fucking cares? Like, he's an adult, make an adult decision. We are not on leave it to Beaver. This is not the 1960s. Okay. But I think a lot of women are still in that era where they're, doing things for everybody else, for the men just sit there and get their food served to them. My husband will go hungry if he doesn't want the food that I'm cooking, or he will have cereal. Like, I am not going to sit here and have someone tell me, that I should be making him this, or, try to sabotage my goals, or, you can't do that, or having to ask the husband for money for coaching, or, things like that. No, they need to have their own voice. And I have a voice. And I think a lot of women may want to be that person that has a voice.
I'm
That
gonna
was a
let that
lot.
land.
That was a lot.
No, well, I think that's the essence of it. And I do want to let that land, because I think that is probably such a big part of what it is. And it hits such a nerve that feels I can't believe that that's evolutionary, that we're feeling that way, but I think it's generational, that can be passed on. But I love that anytime we can consciously or subconsciously break a generational chain like that, where you're like, we're not doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I know, my grandma came over from Greece, didn't know the language. My mom was like, made it through high school, and it was like, whoa, we're going to be louder and bigger. And, and then I have somebody like Claire, who's just like genius. And, like, it just keeps getting better if we pay attention to it. And it's available to everybody, though. And that's what I'm hearing you say too.
Yeah.
It's not like this is the lunch table's only this big, where you guys can only come here and we're the ones that are going to make our decisions and start shifting behavior. What I hear from you is that this is available to everybody, and it starts here. Am I getting that right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because that's not an exclusive thing then.
No.
And that, when I hear that, that really draws me back to just thinking about our mission at the Joyful Rebels. It's about what's rebellious, putting yourself first, right? Being able to fill your own cup before you're filling someone else. And I hear that related to what you're saying, like, that's not just the norm for everyone. And,
it's not.
Hopefully a day there will be, but
yeah. And that's I think why I'm using my voice too. And that why I am who I am on social media is because I want other people to realize that they can be this person too, the person that speaks out, it's okay to have an opinion about something and not get mad at someone for that. It's okay to be who you are and not be afraid of someone, saying, oh, I don't like you because you swore. It's like, well, fuck you. I don't care. I'm going to swear even more now. Okay. So
Totally.
like, stop telling me what to do. We got to stop telling people what to do. They are their own person. So I think a lot of people don't even maybe know who they are anymore. Because
I like turning the light backward and just be like having that, I can't be that bold, or I can't say it, or I don't want to, have somebody mad at me, like, that kind of thing. And it's like, really, do you care about that person? We were just talking about this. Like, there's a few people I care about what they think or feel about me. And those are people near and dear to me. And we have a relationship. Everybody else don't care. Don't care. And I work with groups like all the time. And I'm like, it's not going to be for everybody. And I love that, if you don't stand for something, then you'll fall for anything. But I think it's more true than ever that being empowered, what that looks like in you, is available to everybody. I do think it starts taking care of our bodies and our minds and all that. Like, that is the jump off. And I think everything else comes after that. Because don't you feel like, especially after working out, like, there's this, like, I feel more capable. Like, I've shifted the DNA a little bit. So I'm going to either be more thoughtful or more creative, or take a stand, or think through this problem a little bit more instead of just sweeping it under the rug. Like, that, it, to me, feels like, I like the term pilot lighter. I like that it, like, get that little spark going, and then what you decide to do with it is up to you. But the spark has to be lit at some point, don't you think?
Like, absolutely.
Do something.
I've got one more question.
Yeah.
That you mentioned being a sober warrior, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, 7 years sober?
7 years now, 8 in August. So
Okay.
in a couple months,
Congrats.
it'll be 8 years.
Congratulations. Thanks. Donna, or Mom, as I like to say, she's got what, 3 years sober now, and I am just hit my 1 year sober in March.
Nice. Congrats.
So thank you. So I feel like we had this conversation a couple weeks ago, but that's one of the things that drew me to your account as well. Not just the real talk, but being
Mhm.
able to openly talk about alcohol. And because what do we see mostly? What's mainstream? Oh, we need it to relax.
Yeah.
We need it to socialize. And oh, that fear of missing out if you're not. And what about that holiday coming up? And so I know personally for me, it was it was one of the hardest things I've done as an
Yeah.
adult, but probably
Mhm.
the best decision I've ever made. So then seeing someone like you who's further down the road, who's just really just this huge rising star in the industry, like how would you say, and you talked about it a little bit earlier, but how would you say that like getting sober and sobriety has led you or helped you to be on the path to get where you're at today?
So I can become truly who I was meant to be. And I couldn't do that when I was drinking. Um, I went to college when I was younger to become a nutritionist, right? And then I quit, moved to California and worked in the bars, drank and things like that. So kind of came full circle for me. I got back into the passion that I was passionate about in the first place. And so now I know that I'm on the path that I was meant to be on. I just couldn't do it without quitting alcohol.
And what would you say to someone who is maybe curious about their relationship with alcohol and that they'd be missing out on too much if they stopped? Like I'm doing everything right. I'm getting my sleep and my steps and this, but
Mm. But
I'm
are
drinking
you
my bottle
really?
of, yeah, but I'm drinking my bottle of wine every night. Like, what do you
Yeah.
say to someone who's got that mindset that it's just a part of me and I can't stop?
I they can, they're just not ready. I would give, ask them to do like a 30-day challenge or something. I always tell, when people are like, well, I'm thinking about it, but I don't know what to do. I don't know if I really have a problem. Give yourself a 30-day challenge. And if you cannot go 30 days without drinking, you really need to assess your relationship with alcohol
Mhm.
for sure. If
I
you're
like
like, oh my God, there's no way I can go 30 days. That's just 30 days though.
I like how you said that though, just the relationship with alcohol, like that
Hmm.
that we even if we even look at it, because it's just such a given. Like this is just what we do. It's just part
Yeah.
of the fabric. It's part of our roles as women. It's part of our families, like all that. And it's just like, but if you're even just going to look at it, you're probably going to find some stuff.
Hmm.
Probably. And if I could add to it, and I'm on it, I'm still working on this through this journey, but I I think it's interesting that it doesn't matter if the world thinks you have a problem. Like sometimes I think we would wait for that. I would hear
Yeah.
that from people. I thought it myself. I was like, oh no, as long as I'm like, I know I'm not shining as brightly as I could. I know I'm not going for some things just for just, second guessing or all of that undermining of the foundation.
Mhm.
It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks,
Yeah.
so I think maybe that's full circle of the whole conversation. It starts with, you're not going to walk around being a bully or, awful in life, but you're not going to be concerned about how everything lands with everybody else. You got to do what's true to you and take care of
Yeah.
you. Would that
It's
be
like, are
fair?
you, yeah, I mean, you have to ask yourself, am I truly happy doing what I'm doing? Like, am I truly a happy person drinking? Is this inhibiting or making my life better? I mean, I don't know anyone that's gonna be like, yeah, drinking alcohol is great. I have no side effects at all. I wake up, I'm never hungover. I sleep great. No, you're passed out. You're not sleeping. Um, you know, it just doesn't do anything positive. So when I know I did, I would be like, oh, I'm fine. I can drink, but I felt like shit. I was lying to myself basically
Mhm.
a lot, but I always knew I was meant to do more than what I was doing. You just have to get sick and tired of your own shit,
I love
basically.
that. I
I do
love
too.
that. No, I feel like those are no, I feel like those are great words to end on. Like, what's going to be your motivation when you're ready to make any of these changes, whether it's you're
Mhm.
curious about sobriety or your nutrition, fitness goals, any of that. It's going to be when you're ready.
Yeah.
Well, Beth, thank you
Yeah.
so much for your time today.
You're
We
welcome.
had an awesome time chatting. Beth has a website, BethFeracoFitness.com. We'll share that. We'll share all her handles. If you haven't watched her videos yet, go check them out because they're informative. They're dropping some truth bombs
Yeah.
along with some F bombs. So if,
Thank you.
if that's what you're into, definitely check it out. And Beth, thank you again one more time. For you who are listening, thank you. Until next time, Rebels.
Bye.